go on with another presentation on collaborative European projects with different partners that come together to promote a more inclusive democracy. Now is the time for Daniela Vancic. She is responsible for democracy and defense in Democracy International. She comes from Germany, and she will be discussing about the IDEO project with Carla. This project is on the promotion of inclusive democracy in Europe through the technologies. She is about to come onto the stage.
Un aplauso.
Okay, we had an issue with one of the microphones. Everything's fine. So, as Angel said, you are the Policy and Advocacy Manager at Democracy International, and you also work with me in the European project IDEO. Could you please let us know a little about what being working in policy and advocacy looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, congratulations on all your success so far for the event, and thanks a lot for having me. So first, with Democracy International, we are really looking at democracy beyond elections. For us, it's interesting to look at participatory democracy, mechanisms and tools, and direct democracy specifically. So at the global level, what that looks like is we're mostly known for the Global Forum on Modern Direct Democracy. It's the biggest conference in the world on direct democracy, a moving conference, so every 1 to 2 years somewhere else, next year in Botswana. And at the EU level, we're mostly known for our work with the European Citizens Initiative. And it's the first tool, the world's first and only tool of transnational, participatory and digital democracy, because 90% of the signatures, at least 90% are collected digitally. And so mostly I work on these tools and these projects. Now for the IDEO project that we work on together, the goal of this is basically twofold. One is that we're running a consultation platform where we're looking to crowdsource ideas from citizens, mainly those digitally marginalized citizens. So we look at senior citizens, for example. We look at youth also. We don't always think about youth, but when we think about building digital skills like recognizing misinformation, for us, youth is a huge target audience and huge goal. And then we look at those that are in rural areas. So with the IDEO project, we have partnered with the city of Siegburg. It's not so well known, but it's actually a very digitally advanced city just outside of the city of Bonn in Germany, which is a little bit more well known. And there, the city of Siegburg, because they have really advanced their crowdsourcing and their digital platforms, their e-platforms, where they reach out to their residents. We have partnered with them where we're also collecting citizens' concerns, citizens' misunderstandings about digitalization. We want to collect these thoughts and these ideas. And basically the goal is that we are going to collect all these inputs from citizens across 6 different countries. The one that we work on is in Germany. And then this is going to help shape our policy recommendations for the EU's digital decade 2030 goals. So we're starting a little bit from the bottom up. Usually we're looking at experts first, experts to give policy recommendations, and then the citizens maybe come in later. But in this case, we want to flip the script. We're going first to the citizens in this project. We're collecting their thoughts, and we're really focusing on those digitally marginalized. And then we're bringing in the experts to consolidate all of those ideas. So far, we have around 2,000 inputs. And then we'll develop these policy recommendations for the EU Digital Decade 2030 goals.
So when you're talking about digitalization, how would you say that inclusive digitalization is being used or can be used or is important for the creation of more like fair democracies, inclusive democracies in Europe right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, we've talked about these over the last hours, but digitalization is somewhere that's going, I mean, every part of our life. It's not just the way we're interacting with each other. It's not just how we travel, how we consume information, but it's also how we are politically engaging. It's changing every aspect of our lives. And the key word there is really inclusion. So we're really focusing in this digital transition on the inclusion part, because it's not all are included in this transition. That's what we're trying to achieve, a small part with this project. It's only 2 years, so it's not meant to solve all the problems. But we're really targeting these older generations, this younger population who could be more susceptible to misinformation. And if we know that these societies are going to develop in this way, we know that digitalization grows exponentially. It means that many of these people will be excluded. They will be excluded in participation in many different ways. Consultations is one, but also e-services as we move on more and more online, and maybe one day even e-voting. Who's to say that in the future we won't have also secure systems to do e-voting? Some places like Estonia, they already do that. So, and if we have them already now excluded, then we'll have a double exclusion as the societies also develop. And the consequence of this is if they are excluded already now, it's really creating fertile ground, especially, in Europe we really see this, fertile ground for the far right. Yeah. Because this means then that people don't have the confidence, first of all, and they don't have the capabilities to be able to recognize misinformations or to identify deep fakes, for example. It also makes them a lot more vulnerable for the far right when they say, don't trust these mechanisms, don't trust these elections. And so that is really dangerous for democracy, and that's what puts us in danger here in Europe. That's why inclusion has to be part of the digitalization side.
Yeah, so when you're talking about not everyone having equal access to digitalization, to technology, how, because obviously the digital divide in a project like IDEO, which is based on an online platform, the digital divide is also a barrier for participation in democracy. So how or have you identified a relationship between digital skill and citizens' trust in democracy in Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. So the answer to that is basically we also sometimes have to go offline. Yeah. We have to go outside the digital spaces, and that's what we're trying to do with this project. So while it's heavily a digital project, what we're trying to do is meet citizens where they are. So in the city of Seeburg, as I said, we partnered with the city. We go physically to senior citizen homes and we run workshops with them. We teach them how to write an email is on the advanced side of the skills that we learn. We teach them how to unlock an iPhone, usually is the first step. We teach them how to identify email scams, because older populations are especially at the higher risk for being victims of email scams. So we try to teach them this, meet them in the spaces where they are. For the younger groups, we go to classrooms, we go to schools, and we run workshops with them on how to build digital skills in online safety and how to recognize deep fakes. And it's more than just, AI now is doing 5 fingers properly, right? So this is also constantly changing. The way we did these workshops 1 year ago is different even how we do it now. So that means we also have to constantly adapt. But basically we used to, this is so core to our project, and I think so core to the work that we do, because in the past, we used to protect democracies by, stopping tanks in the streets, and today it's really about identifying who is dividing us, and that's part of democratic resilience. Military training used to be the most important part about defending a country, and today it's really about spotting misinformation. It's about spotting Russian propaganda. And so we're using this project and the mission of the project and of our organization to build democratic resilience, because at the end, even something as simple of creating a safe password is building up the confidence, the digital confidence that individual citizens have. That's all a small part of a bigger picture of democratic resilience.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Marian to put on the QR code. So we've been talking about the IDEO project. This is the QR code to the crowdsourcing platform that is being used in our common European project. While you check it out, you have a look. I would like you, if you could, Daniela, to let us know how online crowdsourcing and citizen consultations are different in an approach to democracy than what we have been traditionally making in policy making.
Yeah. So I'm always a little bit hesitant to use the word consultation because you always say consultation, and I think like at least for our project, what's a much better term and also more representative term is probably co-creation.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is we're directly involving the citizens at step one. Traditionally, policymaking and advocacy work is, as I said, involving the experts first, and then citizens coming in last, or maybe not at all. And we really want to flip the order. We want to flip the script with this. We're bringing citizens in first in the crowdsourcing platform. We want to bring in, and sometimes it's very basic ideas, but when we also see that there's the same idea coming in 4, 5, 6, 20 times, then that's where the experts will look at all of these inputs. So far we have 2,000, and then they will recognize those trends. And we will see where is it that there are gaps and digital literacy in skills, even in fears that people have. I think it's important that we recognize and we identify the fears that people have as we exponentially digitalize. So we want to bring in then the experts, and then we'll create these policy recommendations. So it's more than just the crowdsourcing is step one. At the same time, we're doing these workshops, for example, with the senior citizens, unlocking the iPhone, writing an email, and so on. With young people, recognizing deepfakes, recognizing misinformation, finding sources. And I think this should be part of civics today. This is no longer just a digital skill and it's a plus on your CV, but this is like a fundamental part of civics today. So that's what we're trying to build with this. And then in the end, the whole goal of this is that we create policy recommendations with citizens' inputs, fears, concerns, ideas at the center, and then those policy recommendations help shape the EU's digital decade 2030 goals.
So you would say that through this these policy recommendations, IDEO, and I'm assuming projects like IDEO, would be minimizing the risks that come with digitalization, such as the ones that you were talking about, disinformation, deepfakes. This would be the way to use projects like IDEO to minimize these risks.
It's one way. And again, this project is only 2 years old. So it will be 2 years long. We're about halfway through.
Yeah.
In 2 years, we can't solve the world's problems. What we can do is have a little start, and there's a huge advocacy part of this project. So we're putting citizens at the center of the advocacy part, which is to shape and influence. We want to influence then the EU's digital decade approach and their goals there. So it's not one IDEO that's going to solve it. This is one small part of a bigger part, and this is one EU-funded project. I think we need to have so many more. And the thing is, to get out of also just the big cities, to get out of like the usual suspects, we have to really meet people where they are in their physical spaces. We have to especially bring in that inclusive part because otherwise we will have much bigger danger for democracy when people get extra excluded in the rise of digitalization, and so this project is one small part of a bigger picture. But yeah, I hope it's doing its. I think, and I'm confident it's doing its small part.
So just like as a closing remark, I was wondering if you could give one piece of advice or something that you would like to leave with us and with a possible European policy maker or decision maker about building safe, inclusive digital democracies, what would you say right now?
Yeah, I think keep citizens at the center and then technology around that. Don't put it seems kind of not the most obvious one. Don't put technology at the center of digitalization. Put citizens at the center of digitalization. And then what we really need to do is invest in the two I's, I call it. And that's inclusion and infrastructure. Because a strong 5G network is no good if half of the population also can't access it. So I think we need to make, this is all part of democratic resilience, of making our democracies also more digital ready and more resilient, and ready for what's coming and the threats that are out there. Back in the day, it was through military capabilities, and now our digital preparedness is part of our safeguarding of our democratic future.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm opening the floor to any questions for Daniela regarding IDEO, democratic, democracy, digital democracy, whatever you kind of...
Thoughts, ideas?
Yep.
Hello. So Democracy International has one of the objectives of direct democracy. Obviously, the project that you're working on is very far from that. You're doing public consultations, though you don't like the word, to make a recommendation to a non-elected body, which is the European Council. How far do you think we are from direct democracy?
At the EU level, we're not as far as you would think. So we don't have the Swiss style of direct democracy, where we have, starting from the bottom up, a citizens' initiative petitioning process, which leads to a referendum. We don't have referendum at EU level, and I don't see it in the very near future. For that, we would need a complete, democratic reform. But what we have, the nearest thing to direct democracy, is the European Citizens' Initiative that I said. This is, I would say, near direct democracy, because it is a bottom-up mechanism. It is citizens collect signatures. It basically functions as a petition. When they collect 1 million within 1 year across the EU, so all 1 million, they can't come from Spain alone, but across 7 different member states, then the Commission and also the Parliament comes there, the European Parliament and the European Commission. They have no choice but to also put forward their political position on that topic. And we've seen also in the last year 4 successful initiatives come up. Successful, we say, when they reached 1 million signatures, which means in the next year, the Commission, the European Commission, has to take a political position on 4 of those topics that came up bottom up. One is on reproductive rights. One is going to be also on LGBT rights. There will be, so there are 4 different topics that in the next year we're expecting the Commission to come up with a proposal. It's the closest thing we have to direct democracy at EU level, right? In Spain it looks different. In Switzerland it's totally different. In Germany we have this quite strong at local level, but not at national level. But at the EU level, I would still say this instrument has massive potential. It's massive. It's the second most used democratic instrument at EU level, only second to European elections. So we've had over 20 million citizens that have taken part in this instrument. It's existed for 13 years. And so if you're interested in direct democracy, I think look at really check out the European Citizens Initiative, because it's let's say the instrument that is near direct democracy at EU level, at least as far as we can get it, given the complicated and bureaucratic forming of the EU. Yep.
Oh, anyone else has any questions? Okay. Oh, yeah.
I think there's
I wanted to say that I love the term democratic resilience. And in that context, I'm thinking of how yesterday evening we were talking about how close we are to Orwellian dystopian world rather than to direct democracy nowadays. My question is, what do you think could be the way how we as citizens could also combat the misinformation or propaganda by our own governments on different levels? Not the one coming from somewhere abroad, like the one from Delaware mentioned in the previous speaker's presentation, but the ones coming either from Brussels or from whatever national governments, and so on and so forth, as we as citizens.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. I'm also an American citizen, by the way, so I see, I feel this question also very personally. I mean, I think that's just that's why civil society is so important, because it's there also to have that check on government, and that's why when authoritarians come into office, one of the first things they do is they cut civic space, they shrink civic space, they go after civil society actors, they go after activists. So I think unfortunately, what we also see is the cutting of funding of these actors and those that are protecting civic space and protecting our democratic rights. And so we need to bolster that as much as possible. I think as citizens, we don't realize, even if we're not activists, and I think many of us also here are, but even if we're not, I don't think we realize how much potential each of us has. If so many of us also go to the street or protest or even boycott, we see how strong the boycott was of Disney just 2 weeks ago, when there was when the Trump administration cut the Jimmy Kimmel off the air, and then 2 days later they brought him back. I mean, that was also as a result of a very spontaneous boycott. So I think even as citizens, consumers, we hold so much potential, and as civil society actors, which I would say I come from the civil society world, we also have a responsibility to help to educate, to always say, we have this threat is constantly is on the surface. We are living it. We are living it right now. I mean, in some of the most stable democracies of the world that we thought were stable, we are fast track to authoritarianism. So it's really our responsibility and civic duty to mobilize citizens and to help them in this process, and to continue doing our work in a increasingly difficult and hostile environment.
I think we're good. Okay. Thank you so much. Daniela, thank you for coming, and thank you all for listening.